Hi everyone! Welcome to Filipino Reads Fest. This month of August, we are putting spotlight to literature and arts by Filipino authors. This afternoon, we will meet the author of Wings of the Locust, the 2018 Scholastic Asian Book Award winner. Our guest author will be interviewed by a co-author and a friend of his, Vida Cruz. Vida Cruz is a Filipina fantasy science fiction writer, editor, artist, tarot reader, and con runner. Her short fiction has been published or is forthcoming from Strange Horizons, Podcastle, Expanded Horizons, and various anthologies. She has been nominated, longlisted, and recommended for the Hugo Award, the British Science Fiction Award, and the James Tiptree Jr., now otherwise award. She was a 2018 Tiptree Fellow, and in 2019, she published her first fantasy short story collection, Beyond the Line of Trees. Currently, she is a freelance book editor with a Darling Acts and is co-director of Fiacon Fringe under the larger umbrella of Fiacon, a BIPOC-centered convention for science fiction and fantasy readers and writers. She will be interviewing our first ever guest for Filipino Reads Fest, Joel Donato Ching Jacob. Joel is the author of The Wings of the Locust, the 2018 Scholastic Asian Book Award winner, and the 2021 Singapore Book Award finalist. His story, Artifacts from the Parent, is also Editor's Choice for Best Asian Short Stories of 2019. Jacob is also a fellow for Clarion West 2021, a workshop that focuses on speculative short story. He is awarded Ani ng Dangal for Literature by the Philippines National Commission for Culture and the Arts. And currently, he lives in Bay Laguna with his mother and dogs. I can already feel bookworms, a very magical and interesting conversation. So let's all welcome Joel and Vida Cruz.
Hi. Hi. Thank you for the introduction, Joe. But before we start, to all of our viewers, since we are on live, you can already start leaving your questions on the Facebook comments of this live video, and Joel will try to answer them later. And anything that we are not able to answer during this live, just leave them there because he'll answer it on a later date on a blog post. Isn't that right, Joel?
Yes, I'll try to. I believe we'll be collating all the unanswered questions so I can put them up in a blog post and make sure to answer all of your questions.
All right. Then let's get to it. Hey, Joel, how you doing?
I am good. It's very dark. It's not typically this dark, so I usually depend on natural light for my Zoom meetings.
Oh man. All right. So let me throw the first question at you. Tell us about the seed from which your novel grew.
Okay, so I am friends with Denise O'Hara, who works for ABS-CBN. She's an award-winning director. But as a favor, she got me a job interview for CDG, Creative Development Group for ABS-CBN. And then so I went to the job interview. They asked me to pitch a movie starring the then up-and-coming Vice Ganda. So I wrote a telenovela, an action fantaserie, starring Vice Ganda as a mambabarang battling crime. And they didn't call me back, but I thought I liked the idea. I developed it over the years. I did a lot of research. It's changed from being a modern fantasy into a pre-colonial Philippine fantasy. So I think it wasn't ready to be written when it was rejected by ABS-CBN, but now I think it's come home to where it belongs.
Oh, that's so nice. So out of curiosity, if Wing of the Locust was made into a local movie, who would you cast as Tuan?
Gosh. I'm guessing Aura Briguela. Uh, they have that swagger and comedic timing, and they can also display a range of insecurity, and uh, they can look hurt when they need to, but they can do the banter with Vice Ganda, I guess. That's something they've established.
Nice. Okay, so with the lush world that you've created with Wing of the Locust, you could have easily written a story for an adult audience. What do you
Mhm.
want to what do you want to say to a young adult audience by centering your story on your main character, Tuan?
I feel like as adults, we already wrestle with our demons about body image. And there was a time when I didn't have any support when I was younger, when I was turning to self destructive behavior. Um, I was cutting, I was uh, drinking a lot as a teenager because I couldn't like what I see in the mirror. And I feel that adults should be present for young people, but even if they aren't, we should have material like Wing of the Locust where young people can see themselves and address these issues of body dysmorphia and this talk amongst themselves about the pressures of being attractive that we are exposed to in mainstream media.
Mm, wow, that's really interesting. All right.
It's a
Well,
bit serious too.
yeah, but we should be open to talking about this with a young audience, I think, because
Yes,
I feel like, no offense to schools, but I feel like it we can't trust schools to handle serious issues like this. So you'll need supplementary material.
that's right. And did you know that the younger kids, when selecting teachers, schools choose attractive female students because attractive female teachers rather because more children are more focused when their teachers are conventionally attractive, and that's a very early introduction to looksism if you ask me.
Oh my gosh, that explains a lot about my teachers growing up. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So, um, but let's focus on the LGBT aspect of your novel.
Mm.
What tropes and stereotypes were you looking to break with your book, particularly queer ones?
Uh, I identify as Arrow. So I want, but I'm also very feminine expressing. Uh, I wanted to talk about the LGBTQIA community beyond desire. A lot of I must credit my predecessors in the industry who write about queer romance, gay romance, lesbian romance, and of course, the BL industry is thriving. But we must also address that there people who are gay, are queer and gay even before they establish that kind of sexualized, lust-based, love-based attraction. And they are still valid members of the community. So I wanted to have a non-romantic take. So Tuan swishes when he walks. He has a flippant fingers and he has a manner of speaking of being overly excited and feminine, and he's not very good at sports. So I I feel like this is the time that young people can be feel validated for who they are and not based on an other. So because somehow I feel like all these romances, they only become valid when they are validated by the affection of another. And I think that, being alone is just as good and just as valid as being a member of the LGBTQIA plus community.
That is a really good insight. So, I know that there's a little bit of infighting in the LGBT community because arrows and aces, everyone in the gray spectrum, have a hard time being recognized as part of the LGBT community. So, do you have any messages for anyone in the audience who identify as such?
Yes. So as a lot of times there are messaging there, like love wins, and it sort of invalidates the experiences of people who aren't looking for that, who don't feel the necessity to for affection, but they themselves are expressive of their identities. So, because sexual orientation, meaning the attraction to another person, is only of two letters of soji, there's still gender identity and gender expression in the rest of it. So, the way we express ourselves, the way we um, think about ourselves and the way we act out how we perceive ourselves. These are all very valid expressions of our Soji identities. And even if the messaging isn't there, that your existence is valid, I believe that, we as arrows, we as aces, we're as valid members of this community as any.
That's wonderful. So, let's widen the scope a little bit. What would you like to see more of when it comes to queer literature for young adults in general?
Hmm. Uh, I think I want to challenge the FLF community. The BL community is very thriving, but that's also iffy there because it seems to be based off very conventional male attractiveness. So, but the FLF, aside from Pearl Next Door, we don't see a lot of material in mainstream media talking about women, loving women. And Sigrid, who was the guest a few weeks ago and Joanna Cruz came out with an anthology. They publish stories of women loving women and
Tingle, right?
Tingle, yes.
Yes.
And it's not just that; it's about community as well. So we need more stories uh, about winning, not just in love, but the success stories of the community helping each other as extended families. I think social realism has its place, but we also need work that is aspirational when we can see ourselves winning this community and taking our place in the world at large.
Definitely. Okay. Then let's talk about world building a bit, specifically your world building. And this is a two-part question that I'm going to ask you. Of all the types of sorcery in the Philippines, why did you choose to focus on barang? And what advice do you have for young writers looking to build on the foundations of Philippine sorcery?
So the first part, why did I choose Barang? Barang, I grew up in Bae, Laguna, and there's always wide landscapes in of rice, corn, sugar cane, and I remember stories of when they burned down the sugar cane just before the harvest, the snakes would come out, and of course, whenever we harvest the rice, the stinky beetles would infest our homes. And this is such an experience that I feel is not as familiar as we used to. I was talking to Joe just before the start of the live, how they also experience the warning to children: if you don't comb your hair, the fleas from Mount Makulot will come to you. And I'm like, Mount Makulot is like 80 kilometers away. How are they gonna fly me all the way from my house to that place? I feel that it's ubiquitous, and it's a wordplay as well. Barang, meaning uh, curse, uh, is etymologically rooted in uh, balang, which is locust, and you can imagine how the kind of thinking our ancestors had when they were thinking, what's the worst thing that could happen to an agricultural community? Locusts. So locust, plague, curse. So it just felt right for me. So when for the second question, um, as for the second question, what's really exciting about the archipelagic experience is that our experiences are so varied, even if it's just across the river or across the sea. So I want to challenge Filipino spec fic writers to write about the magics of the Maaram, of Iloilo, or uh, the Mangkukulam, and then all the other magics of Sikihor, Cebu, Bohol, Mindanao. The experiences are ubiquitous when you talk about barang with your friends. I was just talking with a couple of friends, and she was telling me how an aunt was feeling itches all over her body for no apparent reason. So an arbolario put her hands in hot water, and then worms started swimming out of the palms of her hands. And it was, uh, and you'd never see this documented. You won't see it in textbooks, but it's an experience that we live as Filipinos. So I want to challenge speculative writers to tap into that kind of oral history that still persists today. And because those deserve a place on the page to be read by generations to come.
Absolutely, I agree. So, like, related to my next question, are you going to work with any other types of sorcery in the sequels?
Mm, I was. I don't feel like I have a place to speak about, like, say, the magics of Visayas, because we believe in our own voices, and that even works for within Filipino communities. Um, you'd need to get a couple of sensitivity readers, a lot of research, but instead of saying that, instead of speaking for a group that has no voice, why don't we just pass the mic? I welcome the possibility of a shared universe with other writers from the Philippines talking about the different kinds of magics throughout the islands. Let's share the world. I'd love to hear from the other stories, and maybe Tuan and Muhen and Gilas and Lexi can meet these other people. It'll be wonderful.
All right, that's a challenge to everyone who is a writer in the audience. You heard it. Okay, so um, while we're not expecting spoilers, please give us a little teaser. What can readers expect from the next installment of your saga?
The next installment of the saga is currently being workshopped in the University of the Philippines National Writers Workshop. I'll be on the hot seat last to be workshopped by Sir Butch Dalisay. So that will also be on
Good luck.
Facebook Live. So if you want to tune in to academics roasting my work, it will be available on the Lika and Facebook Live. There will be some spoilers, but the focus now shifts to Gilas, the half Capre character. I feel it's important. I feel it's important that we get out of Tuan's head. Tuan is very self-critical. We need to perceive the world through someone who loves him as a friend, who wants to encourage his growth. Because I feel like Tuan can only go so far doubting himself. We need an external voice to validate his experiences, and then that will come from Gilas.
Okay, okay. Tell us, when is this live going to be with Lika?
We're going. Okay, I'll find out. I think it's Friday or Saturday. Um, Give me a couple of seconds. I wasn't prepared for this question. with Likhaan. My session for Likhaan is at the Likhaan Facebook page, and I am last. So that is not Tuesday, no, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. It's on Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Facilitated
This
by
coming
Dr.
Saturday.
Yes, next week. Yeah. Oh, this coming Saturday. That's right. That'll
All
be
right.
the
Good luck.
21st.
We're rooting for you.
Yes. So
All right.
I'll be
All right.
excited to hear what people have to say then too.
Okay. And last question from me before I move on to the Q&A, because you have so many good questions here in the comments. Apart from the upcoming sequel, do you have any other stories in this world, and where can we read them, if ever?
Ugh. Um, I am working with my friend from who's half Boholano, half Cebuano, Steve. We're writing a story about um, mariners. Uh,
Wow.
the it's about the shipping industry in then Cebu, Bohol, and how they navigate using the stars and the shapes of islands. Did you know that during the daytime and the nighttime, unless it's unless it's very far out to sea, Filipinos navigated by the shape of the horizon. So if you
Wow.
were planning to sail from say Dumaguete to Cebu, you remember the shape of the horizon and sail towards it. So,
Wow.
and even at night, you just look for the darker spots. So, our ancestors were ace mariners. So, me and my friend Steve were writing about, so it's mostly him writing. So, I try to step away from the writing part because I want it to be a shared world. Maybe they'll meet Mambabarang there or something. But I want to express that kind of amazement about the almost mystical experiences we have with the sea. You know, like as an archipelagic nation, we our experiences are so tied to the sea. And just this yesterday, I was like reprimanding someone. That's not what lalawigan means. Someone posted lawig means to expand. No, lawig means to anchor. So when you say palawigin mo yung iyong rason, it doesn't mean to expand your reasons. It means to anchor your reasons in logic. So when you say lalawigan, the province, it's where you drop your anchor because that is home. So even the term lalawigan, we base it on our maritime experiences. So it's very exciting. So
So
baybayin, the alphabet is based on shores,
that's
right?
so beautiful.
It
Mhm.
is. It is.
I can really tell that while doing the research that you do when you're writing, you fall more and more in love with the cultures that we have.
Yes.
I hope that.
So uh, somebody commented um, uh, that I always talk about food. You'll read about food in almost all of my stories. And because food is a cultural anchor, when we talk about rice, when we talk about pork, when we talk about adobo, when we talk about vinegar, it's a root. It brings you home. You know that this is where the story belongs. The how many words do we have for rice, and uh, did we all know that the concept of fermentation is key to transcendentalism, so being the movement of something from earth towards heaven is fermentation for the Filipinos.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like,
so like when it moves from when it changes shape, substance, like say from uh, coconut water to vinegar. So we perceive that as the motions of our of divine.
Nice. So I hope that if anyone else is attempting to write the kind of fiction that Joel writes, you end
Don't
up
write your own
well,
kind of
no,
fiction.
no, but like what I mean to say is, if you end up having to research about pre-colonial Philippines while you're writing, I hope that you end up falling in love with the country all over again.
Yes.
That's all right. So let's move on to the questions from the audience. I will
Doki
start
doki.
chronologically from Sil Don Doyano. Hi, Sir Joel. How did you plot Wing of the Locust? Are you an outliner or a pantser?
I'm a heavy outliner. I cannot pants. It is not something I can do. And in fact, I cheat when I pants. Sometimes there will be a writing exercise, and then, oh, just write whatever. And then I'd be secretly doing action, background, development, climax, end. So even if you give me an hour to write, I'll be outlining. Ring of the Locust was outlined long before it was written, and though my tactic of attack was always random, I have uh, Google Docs available with a separate document for each page, for each chapter, and then I randomize which one I'm gonna work on. And since it's already been outlined, I don't need to plan. I can just jump in because I've noticed working on it linearly. What? In a
Linearly?
linear
Yeah.
fashion, I run out of steam near the end.
Yeah.
Or rather, when you write a, somebody would recommend write your favorite parts first. I tried
Mm.
that. I ended up not finishing because I've written my favorite part. I don't want to write anything else. So
that's
I,
that's so
I'm a
true.
planner. Yeah, I'm a planner.
Hmm. Okay.
Looking forward to your work, Sil.
From Sil again, Tuan seems queer coded, and well, I think you answered this earlier, but have you been conscious or aware with this attribute while writing Tuan?
Yes. I base a lot of Tuan's insecurities on my own. Growing up, you cross the street when there's a huddle of men because they'll comment about how you walk or how I carry my flick my fingers, and it's just terrible when something that is inherently true is weaponized against you. And I feel like writing about experiences where they're valid, they exist, they aren't commented on as if they're wrong, is something that we need to read in text. So it's very difficult to say queer coded because A, it's not queer coded, it's obviously queer, but B, it's also post queer in that sense because I wanted to invalidate all of those arguments against queerness by making Tuan part of the community, living in it. He does have insecurities about his body, but his queerness is not pointed at. Like in phenomenology, you know that something's wrong because it's obviously wrong. I tried to do the reverse. Like I wanted to show that there is nothing wrong with his queerness by not mentioning it. But he's swishy, he's flamboyant, he's floral.
Ah, okay. So if I may ask a question for a bit. So what is the difference between you don't make it obvious, and then how do you navigate between what if the community doesn't have a word for what tuan is? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Um, that's very. Oh my God, why am I gonna? Okay, I'm thinking of Glissant, the French theorist. I
Edward
can't re-
Glissant?
Edward Glissant.
Yeah.
He has a concept called opacity, um, and when an experience is natural, it becomes transparent. We don't see it. Like When we talk about, halimbawa, you and I were talking, oh, ano kinain niyo kanina, anong ulam niyo? Why don't we talk about rice? Because it's become transparent. The ubiquity of rice in our experiences has become so ubiquitous, ever present, that when we talk about food, o vida, anong kinain mo? Sasabihin mo kaldereta. We don't talk about the
Yeah.
rice. And that's the same experiences we have with gayness. So
Mm,
we have the bakla, the bading, the bada, whatever. But the non-mention is also very important. It grounds the experiences in its constance, in its presence.
okay. All right. Thank you for that answer. So like, so Cyril here says, I'm Ace here, and I feel like Muhan is asexual. Can you confirm it, Pop?
Hmm, I guess Muhan is old. Muhan is old. Um, Muhan is, if you've read the story, Muhan is old. He's just very well kept. And when you reach a certain age, it just loses its, charm.
Mm,
So everybody
okay.
becomes asexual eventually. So
S- Okay.
everybody, by 80, everyone's asexual.
Okay. Okay. So from Raven Villanueva, any tips on revising a book in a quick way?
Hello. If I had the answer to that, but I do have a quick tip. Save it on PDF. Save your document on PDF, and then do it by chapters. So save your chapters by on PDF, and then right click, open with Chrome or open with Edge, and then go to View, go to Read Aloud, and then close your eyes, and you will hear all the errors. Because sometimes when you're reading your own work, your errors disappear. They're
Hmm,
invisible to you. But
I agree.
when you're hearing it, you're going, "Oh, that's not what I meant," or "That sentence does not make sense." I don't recommend the read aloud function of Adobe. He sounds like a robot. But Edge has a very natural sounding voice. Don't put page numbers because they will read the page numbers. So save
Oh,
it without page numbers. So, but otherwise, the read aloud is a super fast way of zoning in on those ugly sentences and clunky sentences. Revising a book, the quickest way is hire Vida. Yay! She works for Darling
hi.
Acts.
Hi.
She's an
Hi.
editor. Have someone else do it. Pay
Hi.
someone. Pay someone.
That's true. All right. So, what's this? From Carla Tahon. Oh, hey, Carla. Why did you name the setting slash kingdom Mai?
Okay, that's very close to my heart. I live in Bae, so not Bay, Bae. So the kingdom of Bae has been around for around 500 years. Bae used to be the capital of the entire region. So until recently, only it's changed to Santa Cruz around the American period. So it used to be the capital of Laguna, even when Rizal was part of Laguna. So the entire region surrounding um, Laguna Lake was the capital was Bae. And the earliest records are ledgers from China about trade with the kingdom of Mai because the it's they're both labials, right? Ma and pa and ba. So I think they were mispronouncing it as Mai. And I had the colon. It should be spelled Bay, bae, and then I decided to make it M, because that's what the history books are saying, and then it seems to have shifted to bae later. And then the apostrophe is to correct the mistakes that people do up until now. They ask, they read my address and they say Bay. I don't live in Bay. It's Bae. So just so that no one pronounces it mai, my or may. It's mai.
Mm, okay.
It's not be. It's bae. And another beef that I have is that um, when, like, say, people from Calamba or San Pedro ask me where I live, I say bae, and then they say, "Where's that?" Hello, it's the former capital, and also it's not Laguna Lake, it's Laguna de Bay, because Laguna is lake in Spanish. So if you say Laguna Lake, that's Lake. So it's the Lake of Bae, right? Laguna de Bay. Thank you. Oh my God, I nag-lecture.
Also, thanks for coming to his TED Talk.
Yes,
Okay.
angry lecture na yun, no?
Okay. So, what anthropology books do you recommend reading for those young writers looking for inspiration for their magic system?
Oh, Magic Systems. The Enduring Maaram Traditions by Alicia Magos. It's not available. It's
Oh my god.
I think it's for sale, but I've been trying to buy it from the publishers, but they don't. I fill up the form, I order one, and then I click on checkout, and they don't ask me to pay, and nothing arrives. So, but there's a copy of the Enduring Maaram Traditions in the University of the Philippines College of Archaeology, and Dr. Alicia Magos is still active as a researcher. So she teaches in UP Visayas. So um, it's amazing to I've met her once when she launched her book, um, and you might as well visit UP Visayas when the opportunity arises. There are PDFs roaming around, but we don't steal information here.
Hmm. That's true. We don't. Okay, so from Renzo Bello, what is your favorite folklore slash legend that you incorporated in your book?
Uh, I've mentioned the fleas carrying you off if you don't wash your hair or comb your hair. Um, what is a little known fact about the Tagalogs and most Filipinos is the poetic joust. So
Oh,
it's not lore, it's not legend. It's a habit that we have that when you meet a stranger, you challenge them on a duel with poetry. So
oh
we
my
have,
gosh.
yeah. So the Balagtasan is a recent name, but in Mindoro it's called Ambahan. You know, amba, nakaamba. So posturing, di ba? It's poetic posturing. I can recite poetry better than you. And then um, and then the Kolasisi or Kola Kolisisi of Bohol. If you go through all the regions, there's always a poetic debate, a poetic joust happening. And nowadays it's memorized, but
Mm.
back then it's like so casual, like, hey Vida, poetic joust. Right? Isn't that awesome? So
It
yeah,
is. That
that's one
also
of the
means,
that's in one of
yeah.
the chapters. They have a poetic joust at some point.
Yes. So that also means that historically we have a rich poetic tradition, and that is really wonderful to hear. All right, so um, we will have the last three questions. Um, Daphne Lee
My
says, "I don't
editor.
think." Yes, hi Daphne. I don't think I've asked you before how many books there are in this series. So how many books are there?
I'm hoping only three. I'm hoping only three. Um, I've finished drafting the second book, and I hope to um, write that down. I have most of the last book outlined. I don't. I feel like I should pass the mic at that point. I don't want to be a J.K. Rowling or G.R.R. Martin. Um, Actually, G.R.R. Martin's a good example. So G.R.R. Martin has an anthology of short stories written in Westeros.
Mm-hmm.
And I want that to happen. Like
Okay.
I want to share this space with everyone. Like please write about. So Daphne Lee writes in about the Malaysian supernatural experiences, and I don't want to share a universe with a Malaysian author. Um, and just this other week, I was talking about the Pacific migration. So it's like our ancestors used to sail from Taiwan to the Philippines, all the way to New Zealand, and then
Mm.
Guam, and then from Guam they trade with the Mexicans.
Yes, so that's our
So
Pacific connection.
yeah, so it's uh, and it's so erased by the narrative of the Spanish colonizing our regions, or the Dutch or the Portuguese. So what would be wonderful is if I can share a world with not just other Filipinos, but a Taiwanese, a Malaysian, an Indonesian, a Maori, and Polynesians, Guam Americans, so that we can talk about, our ancestors and how they used to thrive in the Pacific Ocean. So I'm ending the series at 3, and I want to share the narrative from there.
All
I
right,
want
so
to
I
write
feel
something
like that.
else too. I want to write something else.
Yeah, I feel like that sounds like a future Kickstarter anthology project. Just saying. Okay, so from Alex Esponga, I'm sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right. So, your book tackles great themes. Among them, which one would you like the readers to take to heart the most?
I think it's about definitely body issues. There's a lot of body horror in the story. Um, you can imagine the behavior of young people dissatisfied with themselves, and a lot of us are forced to live in constant view of ourselves in, like, say, Zoom meetings over the last 2 years. And me, I have difficulty grooming. I can barely comb my hair. I generally don't like looking at myself. Um, and I'm covered in tattoos because it gives me a point of reference to look instead of focusing on my body. And I feel like I want uh, readers, young people, to take that to heart. Like, the pressures of beauty um, is harmful. And love, family, community, they exist beyond beauty. The insistence of beauty is a commercial capitalist pursuit. And at one point, Tuan wonders if learning Pambabarang will make him beautiful. And the answer is no. Uh, Somebody asked, Dr. Jane Garcia asked me, will you ever throw Tuan a bone? Will he ever become beautiful? And my answer is no. He'll stay ugly forever, but he'll learn to love himself, even if he's ugly.
Oh, that's that is that is great. Okay, so and with that, we end our audience Q&A. I'm sorry for every. Although you can still keep putting your questions in the comments because Fully Booked will collect them, and then Joel will answer all of your remaining questions in a blog post on www.fullybookedonline.com. But before we end this interview, we're going to have what is called fast talk. And so you need to answer the questions, Joel, and share something about these questions, your answers to these questions in like 2 to 3 sentences only. I should warn you that I've already done this previously with Dean Alfar, and he had a hard time narrowing down his answers to something short. So I can't blame you if you want to expound.
Mm.
Um, so in a little bit, here we go. Let's play. This category is called This or That. So, paperback or hardcover?
Paperback. Do I need to explain? Because I like it when they all fit in a shelf. You know, I hate it when one of them sticks out.
Oh my
Here's
god,
looking
yeah.
at you and Biliasis. I keep buying your books and your books stick out.
Okay. Read all day or write all day?
Right all day.
Mm,
Because
interesting.
I need, simply because I need to.
Okay, okay. Read one book at a time or read multiple books at the same time?
I tend to read only one book at a time. I'm What am I reading now? I'm reading the manuscript for the UP Writers Workshop, but I just got Married Women by Mary Ann Moll.
Ooh,
From Ateneo de Naga Press. So
nice.
that's what I'm, the collection of short stories about, subversive women.
Nice. All right. When reading, bookmark or dog ear?
Yuck, who dog ears?
I know. It's like, you
What
monster.
kind
Did you dog ear?
what kind of question is this? What kind of question?
All right. So, okay. So, like, what kind of bookmarks do you use?
Ah, I have this jeepney from Papa Melroti. It's a
Oh,
little
that is so cute.
jeepney, and there's a butanding and a tamaraw, a tarsier, a woodpecker.
That's
So
so
there.
cute.
So that's my current bookmark. I also use postcards. I use postcards because they're pretty, and then I lay them out over the text so that I tend to get confused. I'm that kind of reader that I need to do it by line. A
I
bookmark,
see.
a slim bookmark doesn't work for me.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, so last one for this or that. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I am an early bird. I wake up at around 4 a.m. I write immediately. I prepare a cup of coffee. I write immediately until around 6. And then I work out. And then I go back to sleep. I wake up at around 9. And then I do other things. Um, but I can't get any writing done at night.
Ah,
I tend to be angry. I get I get upset. It's We're in a pandemic, so by the
yeah,
time you
of
watch the
course.
news or go to Facebook, you'll be walking away pissed off, and you don't write
Yeah,
when you're pissed off.
that's true. Or for some people, that's true. I do admire.
Whatever.
I do admire you though, because like I can't go to bed right after exercising. That just keeps me awake.
I can have 7 cups of coffee and go to sleep. It's a talent. It's a mountaineer
Mhm.
thing too. When you're
Wow,
a mountaineer, you can take as many naps just by sitting down. So I've learned
ah,
that skill as a mountaineer.
amazing. Okay, this section's called top three. Three books that you always recommend.
Oh, I saw Bambi's question earlier, top 3 books, and her question was about a Laguna-based history book, and I highly recommend Jean-Paul Potet. He's Swiss.
Mm.
The Ancient Traditions of the Tagalogs. He's an anthropologist. He tracked, um, based on the Boxer Codex and many other researches about Filipino traditions, the Filipino pantheon. So I highly recommend his books. Um, Another book that I would love everyone to read would be Doreen Fernandez Gamboa, DGF, Doreen Gamboa Fernandez. Books on food anthropology.
Oh, like
Um,
Tikim.
yes, there's this essay about Sausawan. I just
Mm,
love
yeah,
it.
I know that.
It's about how art is created by a community versus created
Mm,
by an individual. In the Western perspective, when a chef brings out a dish, it should be finished, ready to eat. But in the Filipino setting, we have the nilaga arrives. It's fairly bland. It's just salt and pepper and meat and vegetables. But the sausawan is there. You have the toyo, the patis, the calamansi, the sile, because it's a communal experience. You are supposed to create the art with the cook. Right? DGF, amazing.
That's so
Third
good.
book that I would like to recommend. Hmm, I'd like. To, I was talking to a friend last night about Filipino sci-fi and
Mhm.
tablay.
Oh, tablay.
So yeah, I feel like Filipino sci-fi hasn't gotten the running start it deserves. So it's a mecha story based in fictionalized intramuros mecha, mecha stories. So let's have more Pinoy sci-fi because sci-fi is aspirational. We look to the future and see amazing things for the Philippines.
Mm, okay. Oh, and just to add, in DGF Stikim, she does list in one of her essays many different words we have for rice. So
Hmm.
get that book. Okay. And last question, the winter question. Do you judge a book by its cover?
Yeah, yeah. Um,
Yeah.
because you have to, right? So
Hmm.
when you're buying, oh my, I miss the experience of walking through a bookstore and like
True.
letting a spine catch your eye and then pulling it out of the shelf and seeing the cover,
Yes.
reading the blurb at the back. Oh, it's so, I miss it so bad. But now we live by PDFs, so I'm not. I guess I changed my answer. I would say no. The content is matters, but nowadays I just miss going to a bookstore. It's an experience.
All right. Yeah. And I'm sure we all do too. Okay. Well, that was it for our live interview. Joe, thank you so much, and thank you to all of the folks who joined us today. So you may get your own copy of Wing of the Locust at Fully Booked Branches and at www.fullybookedonline.com. The click You can click the link in the comments to purchase his books. And we really hope you enjoyed the event. Fully Booked is putting the spotlight on our Filipino authors and artists for the whole month of August. So make sure you follow them on their social media accounts to be
Helen and
updated
Chada
with
Kelly
their
next week.
Yes, yes, with their Filipino Reads Fest events and announcements. And Joel, I hope you have a wonderful day ahead. And to everyone else, thank you for joining us, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening. Keep on
No.
reading.
Tardigrade says goodbye. I'm gonna live forever. We are immortal. We